One Sunday morning when I was making pancakes, I realized I didn't have enough maple syrup, so I went ahead and made my own. And let me tell you, this maple syrup substitute is so fast and easy to make, you can whip up a pot while your pancakes are cooking. And unlike the garbage you get in the store, this one does not contain any high fructose corn syrup, so you can go ahead and enjoy it on your pancakes, on your favorite French toast, and my personal favorite, waffles, which can hold a lot of maple syrup. But you're not gonna bat an eye because this costs a fraction of the store-bought stuff and it's way better. In a nice sized pot, start off with 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of brown sugar, make sure it's a little bit packed, and 1.5 cups of water. Next, you want to add a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar, a kind of strange ingredient, but if you ever saw my peanut butter fudge recipe on this channel, you might remember that that also has cream of tartar. I'll link that one in the description in case you want to watch it. So go ahead and add in your cream of tartar and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to bring this to a boil over medium-high heat, and you want to stir it constantly just to dissolve all that sugar so you have a nice smooth syrup. And if you're looking for a printable version of this recipe, you can find it on my blog icookandpaint.com. I'll link that in the description as always below. So go ahead and let this come to a boil, and once it does, turn the heat down to a medium-low so it's on a gentle simmer, and let it cook like that for 10 minutes. Make sure your heat isn't too high and you don't want to go much beyond 10 minutes or your syrup could end up too thick. So after 10 minutes, which is where we are right here, it's not going to look much different, but technically this has reduced a little bit. Now the next step is really important. You now want to shut off the heat. And only when you've turned off the heat do you add the next ingredient, which is a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. It's going to start to foam up when you stir it, which is why you want to make sure the heat is off. And do make sure that your pot is big enough too. That way you'll avoid any mess spilling over. It almost happened to me when I was testing this recipe, which explains why I'm now using a pot that's almost a little bit too big. Anyway, now you want to bring this back to a boil and then reduce it down to a gentle simmer again. And that's not going to take very long at all because this syrup is still pretty hot. So go ahead and do that. It's probably going to be barely a minute before you're back to a gentle simmer again. Now you want to cook it for an additional 2 minutes, and you're going to notice a little bit more foaming. Just go ahead and stir it down and it'll all be under control. Now if you've made it this far into the video, I'm guessing it's because you're enjoying what you're seeing. So if that's the case, let me know by hitting that like button. That way it'll reach more people and no one should be deprived of awesome recipes like this one. Alright, after 2 more minutes of cooking, you can take your syrup off the heat, and now we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of maple extract. Depending on how strong yours is, you might need a full teaspoon, but I know 1/2 teaspoon is enough of this one. And an optional ingredient, 1 tablespoon of butter. Of course, if you're on a plant-based diet, you can skip this, but it really does add a nice flavor. Stir that butter in until it's all melted, and your maple syrup is now ready to serve, hot off the stove just like this. Which I think is the best time to serve it, but if you want to store it, you can put it in a jar or a fancy bottle like this one. I'm just going to go ahead and put it in this pint-sized jar, and this recipe makes exactly enough to fill one of these. And just like that, you have yourself a nice batch of homemade maple pancake syrup. This will keep in the refrigerator for up to 1 month, but it's not going to last that long. Because you'll be pouring loads of this on stacks of pancakes, which by the way, this buttermilk pancake recipe is the video before this, and I highly recommend it. And imagine pouring this syrup over a plate of French toast and fruit, hot off the stove like we just made it. You're gonna love how sweet and mapley the flavor is, and the consistency is just perfect for anything you put it on. Now one thing you will notice if you added the butter to the syrup and you refrigerate it later, it does come to the top a little bit, but you can very easily stir it back in and it's all good. So there you have it guys. Are you gonna try out this recipe? And if you do, what are you gonna put it on? I think when you start making this homemade maple syrup, you're never gonna buy the stuff from the store again. This is just too easy to make, and for the tough times we're living in today, it costs mere pennies. So go make up yourself a nice big batch and enjoy, and share it with all your friends that you think might like it too. After all, sharing is caring, and they're probably gonna love you for it.